Right then. Gamers. It's time. It's time for some patch notes. It's Wintersday. And we have our early Christmas present from ArenaNet. That's right. Post-processing is now on by default for everyone in the entire game. Elementalist got nerfed, right? Mech got nerfed again. Firebrand got buffed up a little bit. They added a Ritualist Backpiece to the game. They nerfed World versus World bosses as well. I mean, wow. What a patch. What an incredible patch. And some also pretty interesting bug fixes too. Some really quite potent, more potent than you might think bug fixes on top of all of that. Of course, I'm being a little bit hyperbolic there. Don't worry. Some of those things are not quite as bad as they sound. But we will get into that right now. So first up, we've got Wintersday. Actually, one of my favorite festivals. I really enjoy this one, actually. New skins as usual. So get in there and get that loot too. And they made it so the public version of Secret Lair of the Snowman, you can actually leave the portal by logging out or by clicking it. It was a bit of a weird instance. Public instances are quite unusual. It's kind of interesting to see them slowly improve the system, actually, as I do think that public, you know, auto group builder strike missions for certainly normal modes, it's actually a pretty good idea, and it was only really held back by quite poor implementation. Specifically, you can't get new players if people leave after the instance locks, and of course, you can't leave properly, so people don't really bother with it for that reason, so actually pretty cool to see that. Let's get on to the actual fun stuff, though. First of all, let's get to the balance. So, first up, Elementalist. The orbs on Elementalist, ain't it like, we made those 0.1, how about a 99% nerf again? Yeah, so they got buffed by 25,000%, now they're getting nerfed by 99%, down to 0.01 in PvE only. Now, you might go, oh no, it's the end of the universe. Good news, it actually isn't. Catalyst does around 41,000 DPS currently on a power build, so Catalyst is actually still a very strong option as a full all-out damage. The slightly unfortunate kind of victim in all of this is actually the Quickness Catalyst build, which was actually performing quite well last patch, but because this also affects it in the same way that it affects the damage build, Quickness Catalyst actually gets hit pretty hard, unfortunately, and goes from around 36,000 DPS down to around 32 to 33,000. This is not really enough, in my opinion, as it has to compete with the likes of Herald, which is incredibly powerful right now. So I think that in the future, I'd like to see this change kind of adjusted a little bit. I like the idea of the orbs doing a little bit of damage, so I think maybe giving a bit more damage back to the orbs and maybe just kind of tweaking it in a different way would be the way to go here instead. But other than that, Catalyst is still fine. The full DPS build is still going to blast. The really big stuff is actually Firebrand here. And funnily enough, they've kind of fixed it. There are still some issues that need to be ironed out, but this is the advantage of the design that ArenaNet is now using here. They can very quickly tweak page costs, cooldowns, right, and so on and so forth, right, to make the class stronger or weaker depending on what is actually necessary right now. And yeah, here it is. So the big change here, and this is very targeted at the more aggressive Firebrand builds, so the Condition Damage Quickness Firebrand build, or my favorite, the Hybrid Firebrand build. And they've done this by basically reducing the amount of pages you need to commit to do damage. That's the long and the short of it. So now the key damaging abilities, the 4th skill and 5th skill, so Scorched Aftermath and Ashes of the Just in Tome of Justice, the page cost now goes from 2 to 1, and Epilogue on Broken Lines, the big defensive, in the 3rd tome, Tome of Courage, is now 2 pages instead of 3. This is actually a huge quality of life upgrade for, one, offensive builds, but more importantly, builds that don't use the 8-page trait. If you wanted to do damage on a 5-page build, which you'd probably be using for, say, the Hybrid build, the Celestial build, you'd have to basically commit a huge amount of your pages to just doing damage. Right? You get to use Ashes, which is 2, and you've only got 3 left after that to do anything else. That's pretty painful. Now, you'll be able to have 4 pages to go and use on other abilities, and of course, including a potential double skill usage in Tome of Courage as well. As you'll now have 4 pages instead of basically 2 or even 1 to actually do something even remotely useful. This should make these builds significantly more playable, and they won't necessarily do more damage, but they'll be more there's more quality of life here, right? They're going to be a lot more flexible in what they can do. You're going to be able to actually spend pages much more freely across the board here. I think they could maybe even go a little bit further here. I think you could even reduce some of the page costs a little bit in PvE for the Tome of Resolve. So maybe make the big water pool, the big AoE heal. You could maybe say, okay, that's going to cost 1 page now instead. That might be actually a little overpowered depending on how it works out, but I can see something like that being used. But this is a really good way to do it. And I think this puts Firebrand back. It's moving in the right direction. I will have to see how this works out. I kind of suspect that the Celestial build will still not be quite as good as it was previously, because you just can't really fit all of those ability usages because you want to use so many things. And I do still think that 5 base pages is quite restrictive, so we'll have to see if that gets improved at some point. But I think this is a really big step in the right direction, and is going to make the class a lot more enjoyable to play and significantly stronger, particularly for the kind of hybrid support element builds there. There were a few kind of fixes here. You get all your pages back on Need Focus. It was weird. You only got 5, even if you had the 8 page. That's actually really helpful again for the offensive build. You do use Renewed Focus on the offensive build, so this is really nice for the aggressive Firebrand builds out there, which is very good. And of course, Swift Scholar, basically, it's kind of like a quality of life bug fix. Basically, if you use a 3rd page ability, you get a page refunded, right? What would happen previous to this patch is that you'd use the 3rd ability, but if that was your last page, you wouldn't get a refund. Now you do. So if you use your last page as your 3rd skill, there's a bit of leniency there, so you won't not get the bonus. You'll still get that bonus page. And also, a nice bit of quality of life. One thing that got introduced was actually this internal cooldown management, because tomes don't have a cooldown, so they had to add a way to track when you're going to activate Inspired Virtue, when you're going to activate, when do you get your passive, right? Your passive effects from all of these tomes. Well, they made this, in my opinion, a lot better, because now when you use a tome and then you leave it, it simply goes red like this. And so it's a pretty clear indicator, oh, I'm not going to get the passive. I'm not going to get the virtue effect when I activate this tome this time. So you can still go in, right? No problem, but it's now red. So you have a pretty clear indicator of what's actually going to happen. And this is pretty important, by the way, because you actually do want to use this not only to give yourself quickness, to activate quickfire on the aggressive builds, but also to give Aegis, for example, or even boons such as protection, right, without using a page, right, on your Tome of Courage, or Regeneration, or Condition Cleanse, on Absolute Resolve here. So these are actually really important things that you want to be able to use, right? And it's kind of a really interesting nuance of Firebrand now, is that sometimes you actually don't even want to use any pages. You just go, oh, I want to do this to give some might. And look, I've given 3 stacks of my AoE, right, because of Inspired Virtue on this Heal Firebrand build. And oh, I can give protection as well, right? Or I can remove conditions, and you can just drop out again. And that's kind of a really important nuance of playing this build, actually. So that's a really nice quality of life increase here. I do think that ArenaNet probably need to think about tracking internal cooldowns here a little bit better, because it is a little bit strange, to be honest. You know, look at that bar, guys. It's extending out through here, extending out into the chat. A little bit weird, but actually overall some really good changes, I think, for Firebrand. I think we'll probably see a few more nudges in this direction. But again, because this is only a small hotfix patch, they were somewhat conservative and didn't go too crazy with some of these changes. Then we have Warrior here. Warrior. Fierce Blow is bug fixed. Do you know what this means, guys? Now you get the bonus damage on creatures with a Defiance bar. Check this out. 40k DPS. This build is broken. 40k DPS, amazing defensives, passive sustain, great crowd control, big DPS, big cleave. Honestly, one of the best builds in the game right now. Who would have thought that? And boon rip, of course. Loads of boon rip, because every crowd control effect you have, because of the Spellbreaker minor trait, removes a boon. So you remove a million boons, which is amazing, obviously, for stuff like fractals or open world or certain raid content and certain strike mission content. You have a zillion damage. You're really hard to kill because you're heavy armor, and you've got max HP, and you have the defense trait line, which makes you inherently tanky, and you've got full counter. Just awesome build. Awesome build. That's all I got to say. It's just, yeah, awesome build. Next up, honestly, arguably overtuned. Bug fixes. So there was actually a weird... They keep doing this. Mech kind of got... I don't actually know what's going on here, but whenever they change mech, it just gets weird. They accidentally buff it by accident. So now Mechanical Genius, it was giving extra precision and ferocity to the mech. Now it isn't anymore. This is going to be a nerf to Power Mechanist. And, okay, right. Okay. Let's talk about this. This is really important. I want everyone to listen to me right now. Power Mech is still one of the best DPS specs in the entire game, everywhere except Harvest Temple Challenge Mode, and even there, it's still pretty okay. It's incredibly reliable. It's incredibly durable. It has great crowd control, right? It's ranged. It does power damage. It has passive damage. And yes, it's getting nerfed. And yes, the benchmark's going to go down, right? It will do a little bit less DPS. And you might look at it on the benchmark charts and go, wow, that's not as much as 40k. This is unplayable. Wrong. It's so consistent and so useful. It's a very useful build to have in your group that it's still one of the top picks, in my opinion. Unless you're going for some kind of hyper speedrun. It's just it's just a very good build, right? And always remember that benchmark DPS doesn't necessarily reflect how well something might stack up, right, in an actual encounter. The classic example of this was Scourge. When Scourge was actually benchmarking around 29,000 DPS, the thing about it is that it would actually get 29,000 DPS in pretty much every single encounter in the game. And still, Scourge is one of those things that's very consistent at delivering its damage output, regardless of what's going on, right, in the encounter. And this is kind of what Mech is. Mech is kind of Power Scourge, right? It's still a very strong build, so don't worry about it. I know that Mech's been getting some nerfs, right, over time, and that's been rustling people. Don't worry about it. In my opinion, still a very strong build, in my opinion. And if you are playing Mechanist and you're having fun, keep having fun. It's good. And a few bug fixes here at the end with Mirage. And this, by the way, this might look like, oh, an offhand change. This, no joke, is actually a big quality of life improvement. Basically, there was a bug with this trait that if you weren't quite careful with how you used your ambush attacks, it would actually just cause the ambush to not activate correctly. And if you weren't savvy on how this worked, this was a serious problem, right? Because a lot of the damage, a lot of your Torment application was coming from the ambush attack here on Mirage. So now that this has been addressed, this essentially is a huge quality of life and a massive reduction in the skill floor for damage Mirage builds that use Axe. So an already very, very strong build, and I think a relatively good build for players to kind of have a go at playing Mesmer, is now easier to play and more consistent to play as well. So actually, yeah, really cool. I thought they would never fix this because this has been in the game for so long, actually. But hey, ArenaNet proved me wrong, I guess. And finally, Hook Strike. So, fix an issue that caused the knockdown duration to be longer than intended. This was pretty wild, actually. I almost felt like this wasn't the end of the world to be left in the game. Basically, when they buffed the knockdown duration on Hook Strike from 2 seconds to 4 seconds in PvE, they added 4 seconds instead of changing it to 4 seconds. So, it was a 6-second knockdown, which, if you think about it, is kind of okay, maybe? Well, actually, maybe not. That's kind of busted, right? Because of how often you could use that if you keep stealthing. But it's like, okay, that's kind of interesting. That's kind of fun. A 6-second knockdown on the stealth attack of Daredevil. I mean, that's pretty busted, though, because you have so much CC, right? You have Hook Strike and you have Basilisk Venom. That's pretty insane. You have Magnetic Bomb sometimes as well on certain... Okay. Maybe that is too far. But still a 4-second knockdown, basically, instead of 6 seconds. So, very strong. It says 2 seconds. I think it's using the PvP balance here, by the way. That's why it's showing that. But yeah, kind of a little fun little bug fix there as well. And yeah, that's basically it for the actual balance patch. It's just a few tweaks here and there. It's good to see that. Really nice to see some a little bit of attention to Firebrand. And this probably will be it for a while. Obviously, ArenaNet are going on their winter break shortly. But I imagine we're going to see a very tasty skills update in the new year. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, I'm actually pretty happy with the way the balance is. I think the one thing that I was a bit deflated about with the Firebrand change was actually that the hybrid build, the Celestial build, got significantly hit. And I was pretty sad because I really like that build. But this really brings it back. And this kind of puts, I would say, all 3 variants, the Heal Firebrand, well, 4 variants, Heal Firebrand, DPS Firebrand, Hybrid Firebrand, and Colony Quickness Firebrand. I actually think this puts them all in a pretty robust place, actually. Probably think a little bit more work needed, but yeah, we're we're kind of in a good spot here, in my opinion, with regards to balance. Everything is pretty hype. Everything is pumping. Everything is strong. And honestly, I can't wait to see CMC have a crack at trying to address some of the issues with supports in the new year. So, world versus world stuff. Some fun, just some very brief kind of fun memes here. They nerfed the Lords, because these are annoying, okay? These Lords are annoying as hell. The Lord would knock back you on its auto attack in the Fire Keep. The Lord would also, like, fear you every 12 seconds for 3 seconds, potentially. Really, really annoying, you know, particularly if you're, you know, you've got a low amount of players there. Bit of a pain in the ass. Kind of the same thing on the Air Keep as well. And this has honestly been a bit of a complaint. I think one of the reasons why a lot of world versus world players don't really like certain aspects is because, in a way, the PvE elements are a bit too annoying to deal with. Same with the dredge turrets here in Eternal Battlegrounds, no longer inflicting daze. It's kind of like weird things. You know, this almost feels like a bit of a roaming change, because I think the dredge turrets are almost near where roamers are and might hit you while you're doing like a duel or something like that. That's a very specific change, I think. But yeah, it's kind of fun. It's kind of a fun meme there. You love to see it, yeah. Now the kind of the ring of not getting, you can't escape from the Air Keep Lord has also had its cooldown increase. It's also been nerfed there a little bit too. So interesting. World versus world, a live game mode, guys. You love to see it. But yeah, that is a good nerf, actually. Because the problem with this thing is that, as they say here, right, it removes all stacks of stability, which, yeah, in world versus world, that's bad news. Now it's going to be 1 stack of stability, much like, say, a Guardian Ring, for example, or a Guardian Line, some similar ability to that. This makes fighting near that Lord much more tenable, as you're not going to get completely memed, right, when you try to cross over the ring. So some really, really fun changes. And I think, I actually really think that players, you know, might start to potentially like Desert Borderlands a bit more if, you know, a few more tweaks, a few more changes. I actually think this will make it a lot more palatable to players, which is always good, right? Because Desert Borderlands has always been one of those things that players haven't really taken to that much, but I think this type of change can really help improve it and make players enjoy it a lot more. Yeah, better late than never, am I right? And here's a really fun one. This one does make me chuckle, it really does. So, the Echevold Cathedral Backpiece has stat selectable. This is a backpiece that you get from Echevold Wilds, unsurprisingly. And it's one of those oh, I think I had it open. Do I still have it? Oh no, I closed it. So, here we go. Let me find it. So this is what it is. You've probably seen this because you've probably got some of these in your inventory, right? You've got your chunks of petrified Echevold resin, stained glass shards, Echevold Spire backpiece, and an anthology of heroes in the Mystic Forge. And now you can get basically any stat, including, that's right, guys, after, wait, it's been what? 9 months since the launch of End of Dragons, and we finally actually have an Ascended Ritualist backpiece in the game. We did it. We made it. Now, here's the really fun thing. This is so funny. So, you can only make one of these. As the stained glass shards, they stop dropping after you forge it for the first time. Okay? And here's where it gets mind-bendy, though. You can craft more than one of these, because you can buy the Spire back pieces from certain vendors. So you can buy, like, the exotic version, as many as you want, pretty much. But here's where it gets mind-bendy. You can actually get more than 250 stained glass shards. So if you haven't forged this, you could potentially gather up 1,000, right? And then make 4 if you wanted to. So you could have 4 Ritualist back pieces. But if you've already forged it, you can't get any more. So unless they change that you can continuously get these shards dropping, unlucky. You're only going to have 1 Ritualist back piece. To be honest, just don't sweat it if you've already done this. You can just use Celestial. It's more or less the same. It's totally fine to use Celly if you're making, say, an Alacrity Spectre or something like that. But look, ArenaNet, come on, please, just add Ritualist to other items, right, from other expansions. Or just make something in the game that's stat selectable so you can get Ritualist gear. It's holding so many builds back, right? I really think that builds like Alacrity Spectre would see so much more play rate if Ritualist gear was more accessible, but it just isn't, and I don't understand why. I mean, I get it. You want people to play the EOD content and use the EOD crafting recipes, but it just makes people go, you know what? Maybe not. Maybe I don't want to play that build, actually. Or, oh, maybe I'll just play the full DPS build instead of the Alacrity build, right? It's a big pet peeve I have with the game right now. Like, just give us Ritualist gear, okay? Come on, look. If I swipe for this turtle, will you do it? If that's what it takes, I'm willing to do it, Aina. I'm willing to take one for the team here, right? They've unleashed this plush. And look, gem prices, by the way, guys, they're up because of this thing. People love this stuff. I'm willing to do it. If you know, if I swipe, if we get Ritualist gear, I'm okay with that, right? We can make that happen. But yeah, you can infuse it now as well. Wow, exciting. But yeah, actually pretty cool. They're aware of the issue, right? They're aware of this. Fun bug fix. This was actually, oh, seriously. Oh my god. So, when people found out about this bug, so what was happening, right, is that the Harvest Temple Challenge Mode achievement, the illegibility, the little icon that appears in your buff bar, it was popping up in normal mode. And I got 3 to 4 DMs saying, make ArenaNet fix it. Everyone's getting Voidwalker for free. No, no. Right? And then, of course, it was just the illegibility. So I was like, oh my god, is this actually happening? Are we going back and they're going to have to make a new Voidwalker because everyone's getting it now on normal mode? But no, that actually wasn't the case. It was just a little bit of a visual bug, but it was certainly quite amusing. And now let's talk about a little bit of controversy here. But tinged with some good news, okay? So, ArenaNet made an absolutely bizarre change. They said, post-processing options have been renamed to low, medium, and high. Color grading is now enabled on the lowest post-processing setting. And this has upset people a little bit. Now, I'm actually going to preface this. They know, right, this is a post from Grouch here on the forums, right, and explaining this a little bit. Looking at this, I believe this change was done as part of the prep work for finishing the transition to DirectX 11, which you'll hear more about early next year. And that's actually hype. That could be potential graphics updates, more performance stuff, new settings being added. Right, exciting, actually. I'm chatting with engineering this morning about what our options are. Hang tight. So basically, they know, and it's probably going to get fixed. So don't panic. Don't get your keyboard out, right, and go berserk, right? They're going to fix this. It will probably get patched next week or something like that. But why are people upset about this? Well, it's because color grading is now always enabled on the lowest post-processing setting. So in other words, you can't actually disable post-processing anymore. It's now on by default. And you might notice something. If you've watched my stream, I usually play with post-processing off. And here I am with now this new setting on low, which is the new minimum. What you'll notice is that the game is a lot contrastier, right? It's very, very high contrast. And this is really against some players' liking. It's a little bit too much for me personally. I do prefer it to be a little bit more chill. But trust me, this actually isn't the worst of it. I might actually go ahead and go to PvP to very quickly demo this. I'm going to go ahead and get in here. Because the true weird stuff is actually in various comparative game modes, actually. Particularly on... It's just weird. For certain areas, things get really, really bright, really, really intense. Maybe it's actually not super good. I think it's kind of in the snow areas, right? Let me go ahead and go over here, actually, to take a look at this. But in certain areas of the game gets very intense, okay? And yeah, for example, here's a screen. I just got sent a screenshot from chat of Fractals. This is what the game looks like with minimum post-processing. Ugh! Yeah, that's quite a lot. And this, regrettably, is kind of true of a few areas where there's a lot of high brightness and some quite, you know, already high contrast areas in the game. It kind of gets cranked up to somewhat absurd levels, to be honest, which obviously isn't great. This is not really what you want. So I really need to adjust this, but we can complain about this all we want. What's actually super interesting and potentially a little bit promising here is actually that this demonstrates that ArenaNet actually could, if they wanted to, split post-processing into a lot of different effects, and, well, seemingly relatively easily, since they just kind of did it as a bit of a bonus patch, right? They just kind of threw it in there just for fun, right? So what this means is that I would really like to see ArenaNet give us a huge amount of customization when it comes to post-processing. Specifically, because one thing that people often complain about is bloom. So, for example, if I go here and I crank this up all the way to high, you'll notice that there's a lot of bloom added to a lot of the effects, right? Everything is a little bit mushy, almost, right? It's a little bit depth blurry, it's a little bit mushy, it's extra bright, it's a bit fuzzy, almost, right? And this is a stylistic choice that ArenaNet have. Fair enough. There's nothing wrong with that. However, there are some things that you might like. Maybe you like your game to look a little bit brighter. You'll notice that my game is brighter now compared to this, right? Maybe you like some of the extra lighting effects that gets added to the game with post-processing, all that sort of stuff. The problem is that it's all or nothing, and you can't really separate out all of these effects. And I think that this would be a really good thing to have as an additional customization. So instead of having one setting, I think it would be really good to actually split this into multiple ones. And honestly, this could potentially be a good opportunity, even when they're looking at the engine or some of the DX11 stuff in the early stages of next year, or simply maybe even as a part of this hotfix. Just kind of throw in a few extra settings to allow the user more customization over there as well. So this could be a really good opportunity. Yeah, it could be a good opportunity to look at colorblind mode as well. That's a long requested feature in the game. And honestly, it's a feature that the game should have. I mean, yeah. This is something that games should have, right? Is this colorblind accessibility mode. So that would be a really good thing to do. And the fact that this has kind of happened, like incidentally, even though it's maybe not good news right now, it's given me a little bit of hope that actually it's possible. And it's something that could, in fact, be added to the game, right? Like with hopefully relative ease and not too much of a headache on ArenaNet's end. So yeah, pretty happy that might happen. Obviously not super happy though about the current state of post-processing. Again, thoughts and prayers for our PvP and World versus World or Fractal enjoyers as they're currently having their eyeballs burned off as we speak. Oh, dear, oh, dear, oh, dear. But yeah, that's it. That's the news. That is it. I have read the patch notes yet again. They fixed an exploit. Wow. I mean, honestly, there's so many, I don't even know which one it was. But you know what? I like that. You love to see that. Fantastic gaming. I think that's about it. Did I get all of it? I believe I did. Yep. We got it. Some good changes. Good bug fixes, a few amusing ones as well, and some surprises as well, which we love to see as always. So that's it. That is the news, and that's probably some of the last news of the year. Maybe, I could see maybe one more thing happening, actually. We could potentially see a studio update a little bit later, a little bit of a teaser, right, of the next year. Although in some sense, Grouch was talking there about, you're going to hear about this stuff early next year, so maybe we'll very early on hear something as well. But that's it. Another year of Guild Wars 2, and honestly, it's been a bit of a crazy, it's been a bit of a wild one, to be honest. Like, what an unusual year. It's honestly something that deserves a video in and of itself, actually. It's been an incredibly weird year of Guild Wars 2. The way that the game has almost held its ground and even grown, despite releasing almost no content because of of course, the rush development of Ender Dragons directly into another expansion and having no preparation for the next living world. You've got to give ArenaNet credit for somehow keeping the hype going all the way through the drought at the end of Path of Fire and then all the way through the mini drought in Ender Dragons. You got to give them some credit for that. And yes, what a perfect way to finish it. In celebrating some Wintersday gaming, getting that jumping puzzle, getting that freezy strike mission. No challenge mode this time, but hey, you can't have everything, am I right, guys? You can't have everything, I suppose. But anyway, that's it. Let me know what you think, gamers, in the comments section, in the Twitch chat. Follow the stream, subscribe on YouTube, follow all my social media, watch all the videos, and make sure to leave some really angry posts about post-processing. Link me your most egregious post-processing screenshots down below, and I will look at them and laugh as I enjoy the suffering of the Guild Wars 2 player base. But yeah, that's it. Okay, I'm out.